Welcome to Blacklight History, your daily dose of births, deaths, and events in African American history. I'm your host, Big A. It's July 17th. I'm glad you're here. Let's get into it. On this day in 1794, Richard Allen and Absalom Jones opened the doors to the African Episcopal Church of St. Thomas in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, creating the first Black Episcopal church in America. The church would later be named Mother Bethel AME Church and is still in operation today. On this day in 1898 in Santiago, Cuba, the Spanish forces surrendered to the United States. I find this important because we have heard many times of Roosevelt and his Rough Riders' Battle of San Juan Hill a couple of days prior. But what is not talked about is the Buffalo Soldiers of the 24th and 25th Infantries that played a crucial role in winning the battle. We've all seen this picture before of Roosevelt and his men. But what you probably have never seen is that the photo has always been cropped. If you zoom out, you can see the Buffalo Soldiers in the foreground. 30 Buffalo Soldiers lost their lives at the battle. 18 soldiers received the Medal of Honor. Today we remember the actress Diahann Carroll. Born on this day in 1935, Carroll began her acting career in the 1954 movie musical Carmen Jones with Dorothy Dandridge and Harry Belafonte. In 1958, she played the role of Clara in the film version of Porgy and Bess. Carroll would become the first Black woman to win the Tony Award for Best Actress in a Musical for her role in the Broadway show No Strings. Carroll would again become the first Black female in a leading TV role that wasn't a maid or servant in the 3-season run of Julia. The character Julia was a widow nurse trying to raise her son. Carroll would win an Emmy nomination and win a Golden Globe Award for the role. In 1974, she would star opposite James Earl Jones in the movie Claudine. Both Carroll and Jones would earn Oscar nominations and win NAACP Image Awards for their performances. For the next decade, Carroll would make the late-night talk show and game show circuit, but she would make a triumphant return in 1984 in the 4th season of the hit nighttime drama Dynasty, playing the role of Dominique Devereaux. Carroll would stay a working actress through 2014 with notable roles in the film The 5 Heartbeats, on TV for the show Lonesome Dove, Soul Food, and the USA Network show White Collar. A survivor of breast cancer, Carroll would pass on October 4, 2019 from natural causes at the age of 84. Today we celebrate the life of Basketball Hall of Fame power forward Connie Hawkins. Born on this day in 1942, Hawkins was raised in the Bed-Stuy section of Brooklyn. Hawkins attended the boys' high school and became a fixture at Rucker Park. Not playing much until his junior year, Hawkins' high school team went undefeated both his upperclassmen years, earning him a Parade All-American spot. During his senior year, Hawkins became embroiled in a point shaving scandal. Although he was never actually implicated in the point shaving, he would have his University of Iowa scholarship revoked and was barred from entering the NBA. Hawkins would sue the NBA and would bounce around between the ABL and the Harlem Globetrotters until finding a workaround to joining the NBA. In 1967, Hawkins would join the Pittsburgh Pipers in the startup American Basketball Association. He would lead the Pipers to the ABA championship and would take home the league MVP and tournament MVP his first season. In 1969, the NBA would settle Hawkins' lawsuit for $1.3 million and give his rights to the expansion team, the Phoenix Suns. Hawkins finally realizing his NBA dream would spend 9 seasons in the NBA, during which he was a 4-time All-Star. The Phoenix Suns would retire his number 42 jersey, and in 1992, Hawkins would be inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. Sadly, Hawkins would pass in 2017 from cancer at the age of 75. On July 17, 1944, 2 ammunition ships, the SS Quinault Victory and the SS E.A. Bryan, were being loaded with explosives at the Port Chicago Naval Magazine when they detonated. The explosions caused by a series of events including potentially unsafe conditions and improper training resulted in the loss of 320 lives and injuries of 390 more. The black sailors who were tasked to load these ships were not trained to load munitions, but nevertheless it was put under quotas and competition by their white superiors. No one knows the exact reason for the explosion, but the lack of training, safety protocols, and callous disregard for both led to the disaster. 258 black soldiers refused to return to work on the loading dock. When faced with a mutiny charge, all but 50 went back to work. The Port Chicago 50 were charged, convicted, and dishonorably discharged. It wasn't until on this day in 2024 that the U.S. government exonerated the men. On this day in 1966, future Hall of Fame left fielder Billie Williams hit a natural cycle in the Chicago Cubs' 7-2 win over the St. Louis Cardinals. It was the second game of a doubleheader. Williams would bat 4 for 5, scoring 4 runs and driving in 2. Today we remember the life of legendary jazz singer Billie Holiday. Born in Philadelphia in 1915, Holiday would begin singing in Harlem nightclubs as a young adult. In 1935, she would sign her first recording deal. Holiday would collaborate with Teddy Williams and later the great Count Basie and his band. In 1939, she would release her song Strange Fruit, based on the Abel Meeropol poem about lynchings in America. She would find commercial success in the 1940s, but her substance abuse would catch up with her and put her in legal jeopardy. Not able to perform in places that sold alcohol, Holiday would begin selling out concert venues like Carnegie Hall. Sadly, Holiday would pass on this day in 1959 at the age of 44 from congestive heart failure. Holiday's distinctive vocal style, characterized by subtle phrasing, improvisation, and emotional depth, influenced generations of singers and redefined the role of vocalist in jazz. Posthumously, she has been awarded 4 Grammy Awards and has been inducted into their Hall of Fame. Holiday has also been inducted into the Rhythm and Blues, National Women's, and Rock and Roll Halls of Fame. In 2021, the biopic The United States vs. Billie Holiday was released. Earning Oscar nominations, it would take home a Golden Globe for lead actress Audra Day and a Grammy Award. You can currently stream the film on Hulu. Happy 56th birthday to director F. Gary Gray. Gray would cut his directing teeth in the music video industry. Ice Cube, It Was a Good Day, TLC's Waterfalls, and the Outkast Miss Jackson are just some of the samples of his work. Gray would collaborate with Ice Cube and make his film debut with 1995's cult classic Friday, a story about life in Compton, filmed in Compton. If you look at Gray's filmography, you can see that he is particular about what projects he chooses to work on, but they are all entertaining adventures. After Friday, Gray has directed Set It Off, Samuel L. Jackson's The Negotiator, The Italian Job, Be Cool, the NWA biopic Straight Outta Compton, and The Fate of the Furious, which is still one of the highest grossing movies of all time. Gray is currently back together with Ice Cube working on next year's Last Friday. Today we remember jazz legend John Coltrane. Born and raised in North Carolina, Coltrane would enlist in the Navy in 1945. Once stationed at Pearl Harbor, Coltrane secretly worked with the Melody Masters, the segregated all-white naval band. By the time of his discharge, he had assumed a leadership role within the band. Leaving the Navy with the rank of Seaman First Class, Coltrane would move to Philadelphia and begin his music career. Coltrane would work with legends Miles Davis and Thelonious Monk. As time passed, he added more worldly and spiritual musical influences to his work, which was seen in his most celebrated work, A Love Supreme. Coltrane was canonized as a saint by the African Orthodox Church due to his music. The St. John Coltrane Church still exists in San Francisco today. Coltrane was posthumously awarded a Grammy for Bye Bye Blackbird and given a Lifetime Achievement Award. He was given a special Pulitzer citation for his lifetime of work. Downbeat Jazz Hall of Fame has inducted Coltrane, and 2 of his former homes has been marked as U.S. historical landmarks. John Coltrane would pass on this day in 1967 from liver cancer at the age of 40. He was survived by his second wife, the musician Alice Coltrane, and they had 3 children. On this day in 1974, St. Louis Cardinals pitcher Bob Gibson would record his 3,000th career strikeout in a 6-4 loss to the Cincinnati Reds. Gibson would finish his career with 3,117 strikeouts on his way to the Baseball Hall of Fame. On this day in 1988, sprinter Florence Griffith-Joyner set the women's 100-meter dash world record at the U.S. Olympic Trials in Indianapolis. Flojo would run a time of 10.49 seconds with no wind. The record still stands today. Later that summer at the 1988 Seoul Olympics, Griffith-Joyner would take home the gold in the 100-meter dash. Today we remember the life of former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Robert C. Weaver. Born in Washington, D.C., Weaver would graduate from Dunbar High School. He would attend college at Harvard, earning a B.S., a master's, and a doctorate of philosophy and economics in 1934. Weaver would serve 1 year as the chair of the NAACP before being tapped by the Kennedy administration in D.C. In 1966, President Johnson would appoint Weaver as the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, making him the first African American to hold a cabinet-level position. He would serve in the position until the end of the administration in 1968. Weaver would become president of Baruch College in 1969 and would take a professorship at Hunter College in 1970. He would sit on the boards of Metropolitan Life Insurance, Bowery Savings Bank, Harvard School of Design, and the NAACP. This brother of Omega Psi Phi would be awarded the Spingarn Medal from the NAACP, the Russ Warm Award, the Merrick Moore Spalding Award, the Frederick Douglass Award from the NYC Urban League, the Schomburg Collection Award, and named the Fellow by the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. HUD headquarters is named the Robert C. Weaver Building, and in D.C., Robert Clifton Weaver Way is named in his honor. Robert C. Weaver would pass on this day in 1997 at the age of 89. Today we remember the passing of Miss Melody of Boogie Down Productions. Melody would only release one solo album during her time, with the single Wake Up, Wake Up peaking in the top 20 of the hot rap singles. Melody was married to KRS-One at one point. A mother of two, Miss Melody would pass on this day in 2012 from an undisclosed illness. She was only 43 years old. Today is the 11th anniversary of the unneeded killing of Eric Garner on Staten Island. Garner was approached by two plainclothes police officers. They were accusing Garner of selling loose, untaxed cigarettes, which in New York is a felony. The officers tried to handcuff Garner, who was protesting the accusations. Officer Daniel Pantaleo applied a rear-naked choke on Garner to wrestle the much larger man to the ground. Other officers pinned Garner to the concrete as he said 11 times that he couldn't breathe. He was handcuffed and lost consciousness. An ambulance was called and Garner was pronounced dead at the hospital roughly an hour after the arrest. With the entire incident caught on video and audio, the grand jury refused to indict any of the officers in the case. The only person that went to jail was the man, Ramsey Orta, who filmed the encounter that went viral. The cries and protest marches went unheard by the city. Even the U.S. Justice Department could not bring charges. In the end, Garner's family received a $5.3 million settlement in 2015, and Officer Pantaleo would eventually lose his job in 2019. And finally, we remember the lives of two friends who both died on July 17, 2020, and both were in Atlanta the day they passed. The civil rights icons I'm referring to is Reverend C.T. Vivian and Congressman John Lewis. Lewis, a former chairman of SNCC, and Vivian, a leader of the Southern Christian Leadership Council. Outside of their separate organizations, their lives mirrored one another pretty much to the grave. Both men were freedom riders. Both were at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom in 1963. Both were at the March from Selma to Montgomery in 1965. Vivian would publish the book Black Power and the American Myth. Lewis would write the graphic novels Run and March. Both men were also awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. C.T. Vivian would pass of natural causes at the age of 95. John Lewis was the last living member of the Big Six and would pass due to pancreatic cancer at the age of 80. That concludes today's events. If you've enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe to the channel. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Substack. And remember, African American history is American history. So join us tomorrow as we shine a light on Blacklight history.